The first thing Marcus Vellin noticed when he woke up was that the ceiling was too clean. No seams, no panels, just a smooth, matte expanse of bluish-white that pulsed faintly with light every few seconds. The second thing he noticed was the pain in his ribs. It spread like fire across his torso every time he tried to breathe deeper than a shallow sigh. He groaned and rolled slightly to the side, which was a mistake because it lit up his lower back like a flare. Patient 9921V has regained consciousness, a calm, sterile voice announced from somewhere above him. Marcus blinked. Thanks for the update, disembodied ceiling lady. A shape moved into view, tall, slate-gray skin, 2 pairs of arms, and wide, pupil-less eyes that blinked out of sync. The creature wore a white robe-like garment and held a flat panel that lit up as it tapped it with delicate fingers. I am medic technician Surreal. You experienced a blunt force trauma incident resulting from atmospheric entry instability. Your vessel was damaged during descent. Your injuries are extensive. It is logical to initiate death protocol. Marcus squinted at the alien. Wait, back up. Death protocol. Surreal didn't flinch. Yes, the probability of long-term recovery is below the acceptable threshold for your species. Your lung has partially collapsed. You have fractures in your 4th, 5th, and 6th ribs, a dislocated shoulder, and spinal bruising. You will not regain full mobility for several of your solar months. It is inefficient to continue biological maintenance. Death protocol is merciful. Marcus coughed, which ended in a choked gasp. You want to kill me because I'm going to have a rough couple months? It is the standard protocol for non-critical species with low regenerative capacity, Surreal said without emotion. Marcus gave a breathy chuckle. I'm fine. You are not fine. Well, I'm not dead either. That's kind of the point. Surreal tilted its head. You are displaying irrational optimism. Welcome to being human, Marcus muttered. He tried to sit up and instantly regretted it. Pain lanced up his side, and he fell back with a grunt. Movement is contraindicated, Surreal said. Yeah, no kidding. Marcus closed his eyes and focused on breathing. For the next several hours, Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness. He was aware of Surreal running scans, injecting something into his fore that made his body tingle and his vision blur. At least the pain dulled. He could tell the facility wasn't on Earth, gravity was lighter, and the air had a faint metallic taste. The walls were too smooth, the silence too complete. When he next came to, a different alien stood near the bed. This one was shorter and rounder, with a cascade of fleshy filaments hanging from its head. It was holding a tray with a bowl of what looked like greenish gel. I am nutrient specialist Tal, it said in a voice that sounded like wet sand. You must eat. Marcus eyed the bowl. Does it taste as bad as it looks? Yes. He sighed. Fine. Hand it over. Tal extended a mechanical arm with a spoon at the end. Marcus took one bite and gagged. You must finish the bowl to meet recovery metrics. Do I get a cookie if I survive this? Tal blinked slowly. What is a cookie? Marcus waved it off. Never mind. By the 3rd day, he could sit up with assistance. Surreal returned frequently to check his vitals and, each time, reminded him that death protocol remained an efficient alternative. Death protocol is still available. I'm still saying no. You have not healed significantly. Marcus pointed at his chest. Bruises are fading. I sat up today. That's progress. You will not regain full function for at least 72 of your planetary days. I've waited longer for a DMV appointment. Surreal stared. That does not support your argument. It wasn't supposed to. Later that week, Marcus was wheeled into a chamber resembling a gymnasium, though everything was made of soft polymers and odd glowing rings. A squat, four-legged alien with bark-like skin greeted him. You are the human. I am rehabilitation technician Orna. You will walk before you leave. No pressure, Marcus muttered as Orna strapped odd weights to his arms and guided him to a slanted treadmill. The first session lasted less than 10 minutes before Marcus collapsed, drenched in sweat, gasping and limp. Orna helped him up. You did not fail. Your body remembered the effort. I think my body wants to forget it, Marcus groaned. He was wheeled back to his room where Surreal was waiting with a tablet. Your performance was suboptimal. Marcus wiped his face. Yeah, well, I'm not a machine. You were inefficient. I'm stubborn. That's different. Surreal watched him for a long moment. You have not accepted death protocol. This is irrational. Marcus smiled faintly. I'm irrationally alive. The next day, the base experienced a systems malfunction. Power flickered and several patients had to be relocated. Marcus, now able to shuffle short distances with a walker, was moved to an auxiliary wing. While being wheeled down the corridor, he noticed a series of stasis tanks, one of which contained a human woman. Who's that? Unclaimed biological unit, the orderly said. She's alive. Stable. No recovery initiated. Her injuries exceed threshold. Marcus grunted. She's still breathing. That's enough. Later, he cornered Surreal. There's a woman in stasis in Wing B. She's human. Why isn't she being treated? Surreal barely looked up. Her injuries exceed the acceptable threshold for functional recovery. Death protocol is pending. Pending? You haven't even tried? There is no logic in attempting the impossible. Then stop calling yourselves healers. Surreal looked at him with something that might have been curiosity. You are emotionally compromised. You're damn right I am. That night, Marcus pulled himself out of bed, wrapped in blankets, and shuffled back to Wing B. He stared at the woman in the tank mid-30s, bruised face, one leg clearly broken. Her name, printed on the tank's biometric readout, was Felora Lask. I don't know you, he said softly, but I'm not letting you die in a fish tank. He pressed the emergency call button. Surreal arrived moments later. This is an unauthorized interference. I'm requesting transfer of recovery protocol to my authority. You have no authority. Then give me hers. She's human. I'm human. I'll take responsibility. Surreal stared. That is not permitted. Then let's find someone who will permit it. The next 48 hours were chaos. Marcus filed a formal petition to the Intergalactic Medical Ethics Board, citing species-specific context and cultural values. He had to record a full testimony, outline human recovery capabilities, and endure 3 hearings, 2 of which he was barely conscious for. In the end, they allowed it. Felora was removed from stasis and placed in a recovery pod next to his. You are irrational, Surreal said again. Marcus exhaled. Maybe, but we're both still breathing. Felora woke up 2 days later, confused and in pain. Marcus sat beside her, holding a cup of the awful green gel. Welcome back, he said. She groaned. Where am I? Some alien rehab center. You crashed like I did. They wanted to give you death protocol. She blinked slowly. They what? Marcus nodded. But I talked them out of it. Felora stared. Why? He gave a small shrug. Because you're human. And that's what we do. We hang on. Felora reached for the cup. Got any cookies? I've been asking for days. Surreal stood at the entrance, observing silently. You are both anomalies, it said. Marcus looked up. Not anomalies. Survivors. Felora's first attempt to stand ended with her gripping the side rail of her cot like it was the last branch on a cliff. Her left leg trembled wildly beneath her, and the moment she tried to shift her weight, her knee buckled. Marcus caught her just before she hit the floor. Okay, yeah, maybe not today. I thought I could handle it, she muttered, face flushed. I've walked out of worse. Not on an alien planet with half your bones taped together. She grunted as he helped her back to the bed. They didn't even splint my leg properly. It's floating in some jelly. It's alien jelly. Probably the good stuff. He lowered her gently. Still feels like a win. 2 humans, upright attempts, 1.5. Across the room, the door irised open. Surreal entered, holding a new data slate and flanked by a different assistant, this one tall and iridescent, its surface shifting color with every step. It stood silently, observing them with a cluster of eyes that reoriented independently. You are overexerting, Surreal said without preamble. This will delay tissue regeneration. Felora leaned back against her pillow. Noted. The recovery protocol has been adjusted. You were scheduled for neuromuscular recalibration this cycle. Marcus glanced at the assistant. That the glowing one? The iridescent alien responded in a voice that sounded like overlapping whispers. I am Vintar. I will oversee your recalibration sessions. Felora raised an eyebrow. You recalibrate muscles? I restore kinetic sequences to their optimal pattern. Organic inefficiencies are corrected through guided stimulation. Marcus frowned. Do we get a manual first? Or are you just going to jab us with something and hope for the best? No jabbing is required. The stimulation is administered through harmonic resonance. Felora blinked. Is that safer than it sounds? Vintar's body pulsed once with a soft blue shimmer. The success rate for non-fragmented species is 73%. That's not even reassuring in alien math, Marcus muttered. Surreal switched off its slate. Progress will be monitored. Your refusal of death protocol remains documented. You are now the official outliers of this facility. Do we get badges for that? Felora asked. There are no badges. Once Surreal departed, Vintar extended a limb toward Marcus. You will begin. Please follow. Marcus shot Felora a look. If I don't come back, avenge me. You'll be fine. Just don't let it recalibrate your sense of humor. Vintar led Marcus through a curved corridor into a low-lit chamber lined with translucent panels that pulsed in slow rhythm. In the center, a reclining chair hovered above the floor, surrounded by a half-ring of suspended spheres. Sit. We will begin with core harmonics, Vintar instructed. Marcus eyed the setup. This looks like a dentist's office designed by a cult. He eased himself into the chair, which adjusted automatically to support his posture. The spheres began to orbit slowly, emitting a low hum that resonated in his chest. Remain still. The stimulation is non-invasive but requires alignment. The hum increased, and Marcus's limbs began to twitch involuntarily. His fingers curled, then straightened. His abdominal muscles clenched in a rhythmic pattern. Okay, that's wild. Feels like I'm doing crunches without trying. Stimulation is targeting dormant circuitry in your neural pathways. Yeah, well, tell it to avoid my left shoulder. That thing's got a vendetta. The chair tilted slightly, and the spheres adjusted their orbit. The hum shifted to a higher frequency, and a strange warmth spread through his spine. Then, abruptly, his entire right leg kicked outward. Whoa, that wasn't me. The reflex arc is reawakening. Tell it to be gentler. I nearly punted one of your fancy floaty things. Your kinetic output is within tolerance. Glad to hear it. My knee didn't get the memo. By the end of the session, Marcus was drenched in sweat, but his shoulder moved with less resistance. He could bend further without gasping. Vintar handed him a nutrient bar that tasted vaguely like minty chalk. You will return in 4 standard segments, the alien said. Segments? You mean hours? Units of localized rotation, equivalent to your planetary interval of 1.5 hours. Right? I'll pretend that makes sense. When he returned to their shared recovery pod, Felora was already asleep. A pale blue light pulsed gently over her body, some kind of regenerative field. He sank into his own cradle bed, letting the residual warmth from the recalibration hum through his muscles. Later that cycle, Felora's recalibration session made it clear the process was not one-size-fits-all. Why is it vibrating my jaw? She hissed as the spheres began their orbit. Your cranial nerve webs require alignment, Vintar replied. I bite things when I'm stressed. There is no danger. Your mandible strength is insufficient to damage my structure. Good to know I'm not intimidating. After several minutes of twitching and occasional startled yelps, she sat up straighter, flexing her fingers. Okay, that actually helped. My hand wasn't even moving this morning. Vintar pulsed a shade of turquoise. You are compatible with neural resonance. This is uncommon for your species. Felora shrugged. We're full of surprises. The next rotation brought another visitor. Unlike the clinical staff, this alien wore a draped garment of mottled green and silver. Its skin was smooth and reflective, almost like mercury, and its eyes blinked horizontally. I am Observational Liaison Hesh, it introduced itself. I study anomalies. Marcus sat up. We're not anomalies. We're just stubborn. That is precisely why you are of interest. Felora adjusted her brace. We didn't ask to be studied. Your behavior has challenged several procedural assumptions. The Death Protocol Committee has been forced to review its efficacy algorithms. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Because we didn't die when we were told to? Because you persisted despite pain, limited mobility, and unfavorable prognosis. You initiated healing through will and defiance. This is not standard. Felora crossed her arms. You mean we acted like people? That is not how most species respond. Marcus leaned forward. Maybe stop building your protocols around logic and start accounting for desperation. It's a hell of a motivator. Hesh tilted its head. Desperation is not measurable. But it's powerful, Felora said. You can't quantify someone refusing to give up. Hesh was silent for several moments. Your perspective will be included in the review. I may return. Once the liaison left, Felora exhaled. So now we're medical case studies. Marcus grinned. They're going to have to rename the death protocol after us. The Vellin Lask exception. Felora snorted. Sounds like a bad procedural drama. Over the following days, both humans improved. Marcus graduated to walking without assistance, albeit slowly. Felora's leg regained enough strength to bear weight with a support bar. They began daily sessions in the kinetic chamber, guided by Vintar's wordless gestures and unnerving calm. One cycle, Vintar brought them into a different chamber larger, with a floor of flexing tiles that responded to pressure. This environment simulates uneven terrain. You must adapt. Felora stepped forward and the floor shifted beneath her, causing her to stumble. Great! Space parkour. Marcus followed more cautiously. At least it doesn't smell like antiseptic in here. They practiced for an hour, stepping, turning, adapting. The tiles changed shape underfoot, forcing them to recalibrate balance on the fly. The challenge was exhausting, but by the end, Felora was laughing. I haven't moved this much in weeks. You haven't sworn this much in weeks either. Vintar watched them, silent and unreadable. That night, as they lay in their beds under the soft ambient light, Felora broke the quiet. You think they're going to send us home? Marcus stared at the ceiling. Eventually. Once we're not walking liabilities. I don't even know where home is anymore. Doesn't matter. We'll find it. She looked over. You really believe that? He nodded. We made it this far. Felora smiled faintly. Then let's make it further. Neither of them noticed the security drone hovering in the corner, quietly recording. Marcus sat on the floor of the simulation chamber, toes digging into the strange pliable surface that adjusted subtly to his weight. A translucent sheet, barely the thickness of paper, wrapped around his torso to support the still healing ribs. His left hand trembled slightly, but it was the good kind of tremble, the kind that meant muscles were relearning their job. Felora was hunched over a low bench nearby, adjusting the strap on her brace. Her leg flexed in a much broader range now, and she could walk without the support bar, though her gait still carried the stiffness of someone who'd learned to distrust it. Do you think they'll let us try stairs today? Marcus asked, rolling his shoulder in slow, deliberate circles. Felora gave a grunt that wasn't quite a yes or a no. If they do, I'm putting in a request for a slide as a backup. The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss, and a new figure entered. Thin, elongated, and covered in a mosaic of soft blue scales. It moved with a peculiar side-to-side sway. Its eyes were narrow slits that blinked in slow cadence. I am Coordination Monitor Yav. It announced without stopping. You will demonstrate terrain navigation under variable gravity parameters. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Variable gravity? Yev gave no further explanation. A moment later, the floor beneath them shimmered, and Marcus felt a gentle but undeniable tug in his chest. "Oh, that's new," he said as his arms grew heavy. "Like someone added wet sand to my bones." Felora stood cautiously. "Is this simulated?" Yev tapped a panel embedded in its arm. "Partial field compression. Gravity at 1.3 of your home planet's standard." Marcus groaned. "I already hated stairs at normal weight." Felora took a step forward and nearly toppled. She leaned against the bench, muttering, "My knee just filed a complaint." "You must proceed," Yev said. "The simulation will escalate every 12 movement intervals." "Define escalate," Marcus muttered, pushing himself upright. Yev turned away. "You will experience it." The floor shifted again. Their legs felt like anchors, and every step required concentrated effort. Marcus gritted his teeth as he forced his foot forward. His ribs protested, his spine ached, and his right calf cramped halfway through the sequence. Felora paused to catch her breath. "What's the point of this? We're recovering, not training for the intergalactic Olympics." Yev didn't answer but increased the simulation again. Gravity spiked slightly, and the floor's texture altered, now springier, like walking on a mattress filled with sand. Marcus slipped. He caught himself with a grunt, landing hard on one knee. "Oh yeah, this is definitely how people heal." Felora offered him a hand, which he took after a moment's hesitation. "We're being pushed too fast." "Maybe that's the point," he said, standing slowly. "Maybe they want to see if we'll break." An hour later, both were drenched in sweat and struggling to stay upright. Felora's brace had developed a small crack near the joint, and Marcus's compression wrap had partially unraveled. They collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard, limbs twitching from exertion. "Have approached its gate unchanged. You completed the cycle." Efficiency was below expectation. However, you did not retreat. "Atypical." Marcus rolled onto his back. "We're not efficient. We're persistent." Felora peeled her hair away from her face. "Persistence isn't on your chart, is it?" Yev tilted its head. "It is rarely relevant to recovery metrics." Marcus coughed. "Might want to update those metrics." The chamber lights dimmed, signaling the end of the session. 2 transport drones arrived, quiet and unobtrusive, lifting the humans gently onto cushioned platforms. Neither resisted. Back in their shared medical pod, Marcus lay flat, his limbs leaden. Felora sat propped against a stack of strange foam wedges, massaging her knee. "I don't remember rehab hurting this much on Earth," she said eventually. Marcus closed his eyes. "That's because we had nurses who gave you ice packs and told you to rest, not aliens jacking up gravity like it's a game." Felora chuckled, then winced. "Still, I'm walking again. You're moving your arm like it belongs to you. I guess that counts." "It counts." A few hours later, they were summoned to the observation wing. The corridor was different, lined with long vertical panels of frosted glass that pulsed faintly with internal light. At the far end, a wide semicircular room awaited, chairs arranged in a deliberate arc. Hesh stood at the center, flanked by 2 other beings, neither of whom Marcus or Felora recognized. One was tall and cylindrical with no visible face, only a continuous humming glow along its core. The other was squat and crystalline, its surface refracting the overhead lights into tiny rainbows. "You are present to complete the final assessment," Hesh said. "Protocol requires demonstration of recovered functionality, followed by psychological alignment certification." Felora raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "You must show that you are capable of independent motion and decision-making, and that your mental processing is within acceptable variance of your baseline." Marcus rubbed his temples. "You could have just said walk straight and don't sound crazy." The cylindrical being emitted a tonal vibration that Marcus guessed was laughter. Hesh continued, "You will navigate the test path unaided. Afterward, you will answer a series of cognitive prompts." Felora stepped forward. "Let's just get it over with." The path was simple at first, a narrow walkway with minor undulations. Then it sloped, curved, and narrowed. Halfway through, the lighting changed, and a subtle vibration underfoot threw off their balance. Marcus nearly fell, but caught himself with a sideways shuffle. Felora adjusted her brace mid-step, tightening a strap with one hand while keeping her balance with the other. They completed the path in silence. At the end, they were offered water clear and flavorless, but oddly refreshing. The crystalline being emitted a short, chiming tone. Hesh nodded. Cognitive prompts will begin now. A light from above illuminated Marcus. What is the value of persistence in the absence of success? He blinked. It gives you a reason to keep trying. Success isn't always immediate. The light shifted to Felora. If you knew healing would cause prolonged suffering without full recovery, would you still choose it? She hesitated. Yes. Because even partial healing is better than none. Another pulse of light moved between them. What drives your refusal to accept termination when efficiency is lost? Marcus looked straight at the panel. Because we don't measure life in efficiency. Felora nodded. We measure it in possibility. The room was silent for several moments until Hesh raised a hand. Your responses are noted. The Death Protocol Committee has reviewed your case in full. The crystalline being shifted forward, its surface dimming. You are exempted. Your persistence has informed policy revision. Marcus blinked. Wait, you're changing the policy? Hesh inclined its head. A conditional clause has been added. Species demonstrating high psychological resilience and adaptive recovery may now override termination thresholds under monitored guidance. Felora exhaled slowly. So we're not just data points. We're policy. You are precedent, Hesh said. They were escorted back to their pod, this time without medical attendance. Marcus walked under his own power. Felora kept pace beside him. At the threshold, Surreal waited. It studied them for a long moment. I did not anticipate this outcome. Marcus shrugged. Neither did we. Surreal's eyes shifted subtly. You have demonstrated that inefficiency is not always terminal. Felora gave a dry laugh. Took a lot of pain to prove that. I will update my treatment parameters. Marcus looked at it. Maybe add a checkbox for refuses to quit. I will consider it. That evening, they stood at the edge of the facility's observation deck, watching the foreign stars blink in the sky. The air was cool, tinged with ozone. Felora leaned on the railing. So, what now? Marcus folded his arms. Now we go home. Eventually. She smiled slightly. Still hurts. It will. But we're walking. Their reflections shimmered faintly in the glass. Two humans, scarred and stubborn, standing in a place that once decided they weren't worth saving. They had changed that. And now others would walk because they did.